Good morning, everyone. I'm going to ride around the world.
I'm Mick Claridge, and I'm going to ride around the world on my bike.
My son, he gave me advice at the start of this ride, and he looked at me and just said, "Dad, don't be a moron."
Let me do my animal signal to gain their respect.
How's it going, Sally? Yeah, I'm alright, Mick. How's it going?
Worse than that bit in Lord of the Rings where they go into the top and the spider's in the tunnel. I'm just hoping there's a spider at the top of this one to kill me.
Freezing.
And I failed. I moroned up the ride.
The Nürburgring turned the tables for our championship leaders. Both Aitor and Del Olmo lost the points lead after multiple races at the top. The chaos at Charlotte's Roval may offer a chance to get it back, but it can just as easily bite them and make matters worse. Let's see which way it goes as we get ready to watch round 9 of the Camel GT series, and you'll see it all live here on the Global SimRacing Channel. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and with me in the booth is Adam Lindgren. Behind the scenes is our director, Zach Johnson, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. Charlotte's Roval circuit has gained quite a bit of notoriety in the last couple years. Let's head to our track guide to see what kind of sprucing up they've done. Welcome to Charlotte Motor Speedway. Until a few years ago, most race fans probably didn't know that this track had a road course layout. Thanks to a huge revamp to prepare for NASCAR to race on it, the Roval is now a top-tier facility. Situated in the northeast corner of Charlotte, North Carolina, there's a whopping 6 different road course layouts. They range from just under a mile to a little over 2 miles in length. Like most Rovals, the high-speed banking on the oval portion makes up the majority of the lap length. However, one unique feature that isn't often seen on other Rovals is that this track includes a decent amount of elevation change. Passing is often difficult, and the 2 chicanes on the oval portion are notorious for their unforgiving curbing. Lesser-powered cars find overtakes a bit easier with the slipstream on the banking, but anything with some oomph is going to have to work very hard to get by their rivals. If anything, attrition often rears its ugly head, and simply keeping the car pointed forward and clean will net you a good finish. While the debate rages on among gearheads on whether oval cars should race here, one thing is for sure, it provides some wild action and almost never disappoints the fans in the stands. Well, Adam, you and I imagine the drivers as well, have been preparing hard for this one because it's going to be a battlefield out there.
Yeah, absolutely, Joe. If there was ever a bull ring in Camel, surprisingly, the Charlotte Motor Speedway Roval would be it. Historically, a little bit more chaotic and at least a lot more controversial than even Lime Rock, this 2.28 mile or 3.67 kilometer 16-turn circuit adds almost an extra mile to the oval while still traversing its entirety. This may make you think that the Nissans will feel at home here, but the extreme banking and massive elevation changes coupled with a bumpy track surface makes this place more familiar to the Audis. Their struggle will be mostly through the sweeping medium-speed sloping corners of turn 6 and 7, and then the terrifying turn 8 that takes you on to NASCAR Turn 1. The Nissans will struggle with the turtles on the inside of both of the back and front stretch chicanes, but will mostly be unfazed by this track. Where the chaos happens then is in the multiclass, with quite a few heavy braking zones and a track that can be 4 to 5 cars wide at its widest point. The Nissans historically have waited for no Audi when trying to make a pass around here, and the Audis, well, they have not been too compliant when it comes to giving up their line or late braking performance. Success today for these drivers will look like survival for most, as you are fighting both the track and the other class on your way to whatever finish you can scrounge up. And if you do manage to finish with a clean car, not only will it be a miracle, but you can historically expect at least a top 5, Joe.
Yeah, we'll see who can survive all the melee that they're likely to experience. But if we get a calm one, I mean, I'm sure there'll be a lot of relieved people. It's not been calm at the championship. It hasn't changed around a lot, but it's been very uncertain. Starting with the prototypes, Xavier Sanchez currently leading the way over Sintez Galindo. As I mentioned, just took the points lead last race after Aitor had a bad one at the Nürburgring's GP course. Laust Olsen still doing what he can to try and stay in this, but with more than win behind the top of the points and only 4 races left, including today, I'm not thinking it's looking all that likely. From there on down, you've got a tie between Gabbiani and Mostretta in 7th and 8th. They've been kind of battling in the midfield for much of it, and they've only got Pablo Suarez and Martin Krejcik a handful of points behind them as well. Let's take a look at the GTO standings here, Adam.
And if you've ever raced at the GTO series, you will know that what feels like the inevitable has finally happened. Yuka Leskala has taken the lead of the GTO series over Javier Del Olmo by 7 points last round. Ian Haycox was able to move up 1 position, and so was Robert Plumley, but to 3rd and 4th for both of them. And we got Jamie Himmel-Smith, who dropped 2 positions after a bad race last time out. Reed Miller held on to 6th position, with Hideki Koivisto swapping with Andreas Schuster. Emerson Gaudin hanging on to that 9th spot, and then Doug Cloud actually jumps all the way up into the top 10. We talked about how well he was doing in the GTOs last round, and this just goes to prove it.
Absolutely. As for today's race, it's been a bit of an oval-centric day for having 2 road series here on the Global SimRacing Channel. We were at Michigan in the Lotus 49s, and here in Charlotte, it's a 40-minute event on the Roval of this course. Open setup in this series. Got to think that there's going to be some downforce trimmed off to try and make passes easier for those GTPs, but they don't have a spare car. And as we said, it's easy to get caught up in issues your own or others making. So keep that stuff as clean as you can get. Drive-through penalty at 17 incidents and a disqualification at 25. I wouldn't put it past some drivers getting that, not because of off-tracks, but maybe due to some spins and contacts throughout today. Let's cross our fingers that that isn't how it is. Right now, I'm looking at our provisional poll. George Golovanov is up there. Now, that is not a name that I am as familiar with. Hisada, I am. He's next to him in the prototypes. We'll see what George can do here today. And, well, no surprises. Leskala leads the GTOs.
Yeah, 3rd position in the GTPs being Lars Weitzig. So very interesting, or Weitzig rather. Very interesting top 3 there. Togo Hisada popping in there, but 15th and 19th in the iRatings, in 1st and 3rd in the GTPs. Javier Del Olmo and Yuka Leskala, as you said. Yuka Leskala currently provisional poll for the GTPs. So it's Yuka Leskala, Javier Del Olmo, and Ian Haycock. So 1, 2, 3 in the championship, 1, 2, 3 in the GTO provisional poll at the moment.
Well, they've got about 3 minutes left on this, and we're missing about a dozen drivers. Unfortunately, Mick Claridge, who is back briefly, is not going to be able to set a time. Both of his laps got deleted. I see Spickett still has the opportunity. Looks like Brzezinski is parked up after a single lap, so he's done with it. Andreas Schuster getting ready to finish a lap as well. 1:17.6 is the 16. Puts himself into the top 5. Nicely done, actually, for Andreas. That's a pretty handy time. And on to the oval we go with the likes of the number 29 here. And this is Hideki Koivisto on his 2nd flyer. Just 2 more chicanes to go, Adam.
And he's got some work to do. Right now, only in 11th position. He wants to qualify in the top 5 to avoid being part of some of the chaos that can happen through turns 1 and 2 at the beginning of this track. So, Hideki Koivisto, a good run through the backstretch chicane. It's now onto the front stretch chicane to see whether or not he can get this done. He's on pace to do a similar time to the one that he's already put in, which looks like that's going to be about 2 seconds off of the fastest time. But let's see what he could do coming through the final bit of the chicane. Looking to beat a 1:18.3, crosses the line of 1:17.9 is going to put him up into 9th.
Nicely done. And I think that is the last of drivers that can set a time. Double checking to see if anybody else has the ability. And the answer is no. He was the final driver. A couple of them are out there, but
yeah, Piotr Brzezinski looks like he might be able to set a qualifying time. He's on his second lap at the moment.
He was in pit lane, though, with that first lap already deleted. I think this is an out lap, and, well, now it's definitely not going to count as he bangs it up against the wall. So a bit of a false alarm there on this one. It's going to be fun, no doubt. But the good news is, Adam, that the temperatures are looking like they are cooperating here in this evening tide race.
Yeah, absolutely. 82 degrees in the air Fahrenheit, 86 on the track. That is 30 C track temperature for those of you across the pond. And what's interesting about that is that means it was a very warm day out there, as the sun has been setting 7 p.m. Virtual standard time for these drivers, which means this track is retaining some of the radiant heat from the sun. And so this track will significantly start to cool down over the course of this race, and that could definitely affect how the drivers are handling the track.
Bad news is they've got quite a bit of wind, and hopefully that doesn't gust around too much. We saw at Phillip Island that it is a big problem if it starts to really blow them hither and thither. But let's head through that starting order then. It looks like everything is settled for today's event, and we have a big field. George Golovanov, going to get that name right eventually, is on the pole. Only one to break into the 104s in the prototypes. Toka Hisada, who tried his best to take a win in the Lotus 49s, came up just shy. He's going to start on the outside of the front row here. Xavier Sanchez will start from third, and Lars Wetzig will be in P4. Nick Mukanos starts from fifth, followed by Xavier Mosquera in the sixth position. Then you've got Aitor Sintes Galindo, former championship leader, all the way down in seventh today. Ove Trangrade will be P8, and Joseph Mudrack starts from P9. You've got Fabian Jungbluth in 10th, followed by Laust Olsen on the start of the next slide. Diego Mastretta will be 12th. Stephen Warkup racing for a brand new team, Brabham Esports, and that is involved with the actual Brabham family. David Brabham, in fact, has been keeping tabs on that team. Unfortunately, not the man that drove this car, Jeff Brabham. Pablo Suarez starts 14th with Gianluca Gabbiani P15. Then it's Marty Novak in the 16th position and Robert Lowry in P17. Lars Monkenut in the 18th will be followed by Seamus Power to his outside. It'll be Daniel Stimon. On the next slide, you've got the last three that set times. Cam Porter in 21st, Tono DeCal in 22nd, and Michael Spohn 23rd. Mick Claridge will be 24th, Jack Spickett, Jason Clapper, Kurt Clapper, Peter Brusniski, Brandon Lim, and Christian Arribas round out the GTP field.
Absolutely, 30 GTPs and a big number of GTOs as well. And while we saw some unfamiliar names in the GTPs, all familiar names in the GTOs, regardless of how frequently they race this track. We got Yuka Leskala in first with Javier Del Olmo lining up outside of him. Ian Haycox in third with Yuri Gayson returning for the fourth position. Antonio Alvarez, a good qualifying for him in the fifth spot with Andreas Schuster in sixth. Robert Brumley lining up in the seventh position on row 4 with Ben Laughter alongside him. Hideki Koivisto and Jamie Hamill-Smith round out the top 10 starting positions. Then we get Mika Tupula in 11th position with Mark Olay in 12th. Emerson Gaudin lining up in 13th spot with Stefan Leslie alongside him in row 7. Row 8 goes to Javier Delgado for the Audis with Nico Simmons in the 16th position. We get Michael Haynes in 17th with Giovanni Salvador in 18th position. You're the last of those drivers to start to get a starting time. Then we get Carlos Fonseca in 19th and Dustin Dawes in the 20th position. And then rounding out, that actually rounds out all of your drivers. It's 50 drivers today, 30 Nissans, 20 Audis.
So slightly leaning towards the Nissans. Bad news for the Audi drivers. And let's take a look at our onboard cams to see who's giving us a perspective, if we even have the time to check in on them. Laust Olsen, as is traditional, is bringing us the pucker cam. I'm sure he'll be plenty scrunched up on that face here today. And then Cam Porter is back again to show us the rocking cam as well. And we got a new one. Mick Claridge in his VR setup is taking a brief break and getting ready to go. In fact, he's just taken off from the grid right now as he gets rolling. A very sparse-looking room. Don't know where he is exactly, but it doesn't look very cozy.
Well, actually, sparse is a pretty good thing. We got a VR rig going because it gets very, very warm in a VR rig, especially with what I like to call putting the helmet on. So when you put the headset onto your head, and my goodness, can it get sweaty in there? So an empty room with some sufficient cooling is actually an ideal environment for a VR setup. So as long as he doesn't scream too loudly at his misfortune, I don't think anyone's going to be too offended by that.
Indeed, yeah. One of the stories that sticks with me most about VR headsets is in the Lotus 79 series. We had a driver who wrecked at the Nordschleife once because the sweat was dripping so much that it got into his eyes inside the headset, and obviously that causes problems. So he could not keep hold of things in the end. Let's hope that everybody is able to keep it calm out there today. And what can Golovanov do out there in that number 15? Might not have the I rating compared to some here, but certainly seems to have the pace at the first time I can recall seeing, and he is starting from the top spot.
Yeah, absolutely. It's going to be interesting to see how that plays out at the beginning of this race, especially because we do have quite a few names in the GTPs that are fairly unfamiliar to us on the broadcast race side of things. Many of these drivers have raced during the week for the series. This is an official series, and they do organize strength of field races for these cars over the course of the week. You can go to camelgt.com to check out their schedule and to get a link to their Discord as well. But it'll be very interesting to see how this race starts out, because everyone's going to want to get their passing and battling done before they start getting into multi-class scenarios, because as we talked about, multi-class is very chaotic here.
Absolutely. And that's Kamel GT with a K, just in case we have new viewers coming in and are used to the real world series that this was mimicking. But we are waiting on Golovanov to go, and he is on it. So George is away, and it's a very good jump from Hisada, challenging him from the outside as they plunge down into a heartburn turn, but he can't quite get past the rest of the GTP field. Looks like it got spread out by the chicane, so it wasn't too much chaos into the first turn. Let's go to the GTOs.
A fantastic jump from Javier Del Olmo over Yuka Leskola. He takes the lead away from him. Ian Haycock's falling into the third position. We did have a car going over the turtles over the final corner. I believe that was Jamie Hamill-Smith, who lost a couple of positions back down to 9th, but it's pretty clean and straight and narrow for these drivers going forward in the GTO class.
Well, this is great news for Del Olmo. He really needs to try and pull a gap as much as he can over Leskola, because he needs to beat him over the rest of the season, which is easier said than done, but he's also been very quick. As we take another look at our battle for the lead, George still about 5/10 ahead of Togo Hisada. Lars Veitzig is keeping them honest, but he's fallen back by about 8/10. We get ready to complete the first lap as they hit the final chicane.
Absolutely, the GTP is fairly clean and savory at this point in the race. Robert Lowry overtaking Pablo Suarez for the 15th position back further in the track. Down the GTOs, it looks like Hideki Koivisto and Marco Lay. We've had a wreck off of the final corner. That's Marty Novak, who's gone around a little bit. Lars Monconut, and this is a huge wreck for the GTPs as the GTOs are about to approach this.
Looks like Novak's still stationary. Monconut, they're going to be able to get going just as Del Olmo approaches, and they're going to be able to get out of the way. But that was our big worry. You talked about how narrow this track was, Adam, and unfortunately that second chicane just bit them too hard.
Absolutely, the track does narrow up there. It goes from 5 lanes down to 2, down to 1 through that final chicane. So no surprise that we've seen an incident there, but surprised we saw it that early as, oh my goodness, a little bit of contact between Yuka Leskola and Javier Del Olmo. Del Olmo missed a shift, allowing Leskola to retake the lead.
Very common in these cars. These Audis are so finicky, and the gearbox just does not like even the best of runs through the gearbox. So onto the oval, back to the point goes Leskola. Ian Haycock still kind of watching, about a second behind them. He's taken 4 podiums already this season. He might be able to grab another, but he's waiting for those two to take each other out so he can finally step up top.
Absolutely, he's going to have to hope for that because these two are absolutely duking it out at the front of the field. Very tight racing between Del Olmo and Leskala. Up the front of the GTP field, we have another wreck. It's Lars Weitzig who's gone around from the 3rd position.
This time he's able to get out of the racing line. This is coming off of turn 3, it looks like. So he's able to get it going. Looked like a bit of damage with the wall that he made contact with, but I'm not sure how much is in the meantime, into pit lane. Lars Monkenut has cried enough on that one. He does not have the black and orange flag, so he's not being forced to come in, but he's missed his pit stall.
Absolutely, so he has to go back into the pits, and once again, looks like, whoa, that was a lot of damage there for Togo Hisada, who picked up some damage, looks like, from the curbing on the front left of that machine, so he's going to have something to worry about in the 2nd position. Javier Sanchez in the 3rd position for those drivers, just about 2 seconds behind right now of Togo Hisada.
Yeah, and remember, the main rival for Sanchez is Sintez Galindo, who's still behind him by 3 positions. We've got a replay, I think, because this is separated out here between Sanchez and Mucanos. Let's take a look at the wreck on the front stretch. I didn't get a good look at this, so Adam, talk us through it.
Yeah, absolutely. Just coming together off of the final part of the chicane, and then quite a bit of damage from, look at this, just lots of ricocheting going on between all those drivers. And no surprise to see that happening, but I'm just a little surprised at the severity of the incident. It looks like a little bit of netcode was involved.
That was Pablo Suarez in the 22 that thought he was free and clear, and yeah, he was in the first part of it. Probably thought to himself, yeah, okay, I'm out of it, I'm good, I'm still rolling, and then suddenly there goes the 31 right into his side, pops him up over the wall. He's had to take a tow, and I think he's actually retired the car. So day over for Pablo.
All right, our leaders in the GTPs are starting to get to the back of the GTO field. They have a few just scattered 1 and 2 car battles to deal with, but once they get up to the 14th to 10th position, that's a 5-car battle for that position that they're going to have to worry about. So this is George Golovanov who's trying to cut his way through right now.
Yep, gets by 1, but...
Oh, Aitor Sintez Galindo is around with major damage, and he's had to take a tow.
For the 2nd race in a row, big problems for the man that used to be leading the championship. This time, I think he had some ghost contact, it looks like.
Yeah, major ghost contact with Joseph Mudrack, as he said.
Unfortunate there for the number 7. And for Aitor Sintez Galindo, because we don't know if Joseph is also dealing with a bit of damage out of that. They didn't actually make contact from what I could see, and yeah, on there the cars were pretty far separated, and he just was in a bad place at a bad time. So back up to our leaders in the prototypes. And it looks like George has hit the thick of it, and this is where it gets dangerous now. He's able to sneak by 1. Hisada tries to pull the same move, but gets held up big time. Look at the gap that grows now at Simmons, who's actually going to use him as a pick. And Stefan Leslie has to give way as Nico in the 47 uses our leader to try and gain a position.
Absolutely, we see it happen all the time in the Audis and also in the GTPs. Xavier Sanchez, though, having to cut his way through, as Togo Hisada does as well. That's a misshift from Nico Simmons off of the corner that allows Nicholas Makanos to go through as well. But Sanchez having to find his way around. He's going to try to go around the outside here of 7. That's a dangerous move. That's going to be really tight on the inside of the corner.
Hideki's a veteran in this series. He saw it coming, thankfully, and gave him just enough space at the apex. But yeah, trying to go the long way around, then switching back to the inside in a blind corner sounded like disaster to me. Somebody going slow here.
That's Robert Lowry, who made contact with Michael Haynes. Michael Haynes losing his front end in the process. Unfortunately, he's going to have to take a tow and retire.
Yeah, that is... well, he doesn't have a black and orange flag. So Robert's able to keep going, as we had a lot of the GTPs now catching up. So the 2 fields are very intermingled at this point. Laust Olsen still only in 10th position, has not been able to gain a lot. He fared very well back in Michigan and the Lotus 49s on a straight oval, but now that we've thrown a road course into it, seems like this has not been the greatest of days thus far.
Yeah, absolutely. At this point in the race, now that you've caught up with the Audis, it's patience time. You got to be very patient, very careful. Almost 3 wide going into the first turn. Laust decides to stick his nose in and catches a curb for his trouble. Not going to work out again as Stefan Leslie cuts off his nose going into turn 4.
Can't believe that one didn't get a pucker out of him. He completely bounded over those curbs, and these are very low-slung cars that need the under tray to be in pristine position. So I'm surprised that he didn't really flinch at all from what we could see.
Yeah, but going again now, I'm a little concerned that he, like you said, has a little bit of under tray damage, so we'll have to see whether or not his straight line speed is affected compared to the rest of the other cars. Now that he's got a little bit of clear air, time to put the pedal to the metal and start going again. But our leaders in both classes are about to converge for the first time this race, Yuka Leskala and George Golovanov.
Now, he's got to get Del Olmo first here. Del Olmo's going to get a nice wide entry to allow George through. Leskala up next. This is where it gets a little bit more technical, and look at the extra downforce that George has. He just sneaks on by.
A good move there as Javier Basquez decided to take to the pits to repair some damage of his own as our leader Yuka Leskala. Oh, we've had some major contact here. Who is this who's had some trouble?
Trying to make that out and figure out who that is. Is that Alvarez, I think, in the 25? Yeah, he's got Mastretta going through, and I heard an apology from Hamill Smith. I'm going to guess that this was related, and yes, Hamill Smith got into the side of him.
Oh, and a nice battle for the third and fourth positions in the GTPs as Nick Macanos goes past Javier Sanchez as they've caught up to Yuka Leskala going into the backstretch chicane. They had to go down underneath the track to go past Javier Del Olmo and Dustin Dawes on their way up through this GTO field.
So Leskala sees Sanchez stream on by, Mucanos as well. This is the battle for the third.
Oh, and a big wreck on the backstretch chicane between multiple classes. Gianluca Gabbiani, Michael Spohn, Ben Laughter, Lars Machinut, all involved, and still contact happening. They're all piling up here. It's going to be a gigantic fest.
Yeah, car was just kind of sitting stationary, waiting for a clear line, but was still almost on the racing line. Daniel Stimon got turned around because of it. You can see him now taking off. And I'm going to guess that was Gabbiani, who's now slow into the pit lane.
Yeah, it was the number 27 of Gianluca Gabbiani that started all of this. They tried to go in between two lapping GTOs, and unfortunately the 27 into the pits. But this one is definitely worth a replay to see how this kind of incident can happen.
There's our leader finally back in some clear air and hoping he could spread his wings to gap over Hisada. It's back up to about 1.5 seconds currently. And so, yeah, let's see if we can pull up a replay of that incident with the 27. Oh, whoa, no, there went our leaders just as we went. Apologies both to the audience and our director. As soon as we went away, the leader wrecked into a GTO that would suddenly just drifted up the track.
Yeah, that was Giovanni Salvador. And Salvador, this, I mean, I have questions about intent behind this, honestly, Joe.
Ooh, I always hate to throw that around. We just don't know. I'm guessing miscommunication from his part, just did not expect, and maybe it was inexperienced, but this gives Hisada the lead, and there goes the 15. Hopefully we'll get a replay of this one. Not trying to confuse our poor director in the background, but let's see here.
All right, so this is the initial incident with the 27. This is after the incident has happened, the 27 could not get the car started and ends up causing a gigantic pileup in the background and then almost takes out another car coming on. But here's what happened. You can see the slow and crabbing GTO. 27 does not see because he's tucked behind one of his GTP competitors. And he pulls it in here and stalls the car, makes contact with the 26, and it's just parked on beyond the apex. It's a blind turn into that left-hander because they're behind a barrier. And so that's why there was a big collection back there.
Oh, and he almost caused another one on his way out as well. Golovanov, though, let's see if we've got something on him, because this happened not too long after as well. He's been into pit lane since then, is taking repairs, but I'm not seeing in his pit stall. I'm not sure if that's a timing and scoring bug that I've got out of that one. Here he is on screen now during the replay.
Yeah, and so this happens beyond the backstretch. There it is, the contact, and the GTO, I believe, just thought he was going to give the inside line to the GTP to Golovanov there, and unfortunately, that ends up happening. Here is the incident one more time.
Unfortunately, in multi-class racing, Adam, there's such a thing as too nice.
Absolutely, the rule for being on the slower class is to hold your line. Obviously, you don't want to run into anybody if you can't hold your line, but if you are racing your line, especially in a braking zone or a complex sector, just drive the racing line and the GTPs will find their way around you.
And I was going to suggest we go a little farther down, but Mukanos is chasing on Hisada. He is caught up. Remember, he was battling with Sanchez earlier, and I'm not sure if this was some of the checkup that's happened around the track or what, but he has run him down, and now that is Hamill Smith just in front of him. He's able to slip around, but that slowed him up a little as well. Mukanos taking a peek down into turn 5. Nothing doing there. Up and over the crest of 6. If he gets a good slipstream, he could maybe have a chance at it down into the chicane.
The overall battle for the lead going on with some battling GTOs up ahead of them that they're going to have to clear. This is Carlos Fonseca and Nico Simmons. Both of them have been hard-pressed fighting each other. They're going to split them right in between. And look, Mukanos has a run. He's going to look to the inside. They're going to go 3 wide into the braking zone for the chicane. Contact there between Hisada and Simmons. This is going to send a couple of GTOs off into the center of the track. Mukanos and Hisada come out relatively unscathed.
Simmons and Leslie just literally banged into each other because of the cars battling so ferociously next to one another. Both of them are able to keep going, thankfully, and so does this battle. It's not gone away. Mukanos and Hisada are still separated by 0.3 of a second. And by the way, we still have 25 minutes left to go in this thing.
Mukanos has not tasted victory in over half a year, Joe. He is feeling the burn right now to try and take this position away from Toko Hisada. He's going to try and do everything he possibly can to do so. So don't expect him to back down at any point during this race.
So as they come through, somebody is going slow.
This is Robert Lowry. He ended up held up behind next to Cam Porter, I believe, as they were going into the backstretch chicane. Got going once again, though.
Well, at least he's able to get it rolling. And I know we've been focusing a lot on these prototypes, but by the way, Lescala still leads Del Olmo by about 4 seconds. So they've separated by a decent chunk after Del Olmo has given that one up. This is looking like Lescala might be able to extend his lead. Lau Stolson chasing on Stephen Warkup in that new Bradbury liveried machine. Don't want to scrape that up. That's Ben Laughter that he just about ran into, and both of those are veterans. I think Laughter...
Sorry, Togo Hisada and Nick Mukanos have come together for the lead of the race. Fortunately, both of them able to keep going straight, but they make major contact with Michael Haynes, who's rejoined after his wreck.
Oh, how damaged are they from that as well? Mukanos is now leading, and yeah, that was mitigated by Hisada having to brake for Haynes, and Mukanos not expecting it, kind of just had to slip up the inside almost by force majeure.
Absolutely. So both of them with side skirt damage that's going to be affecting their straight line speed. This might actually open up the window for Xavier Sanchez. Sanchez himself has a fairly clean machine, so if he doesn't have any undertray damage, he might be able to catch up to these guys on raw pace alone.
Could be. And Sanchez has been pretty quick. Trying to check and see. Yeah, Sanchez has 2 wins already so far this season. Trying to make it 3 and extend that gap over Sintez Galindo. In fact, by a wide margin, because Sintez Galindo is going to have another DNF today and another 0 score.
Yeah, absolutely. So just a really unfortunate turn of events late in this season.
Oh, Togo Hisada just got turned around. It was Emerson Gaudin in almost the same spot coming out of turn 1. Only reason I caught it is because Sanchez went by, and now his car is crabbing badly. It's got to be suspension damage on the number 5.
And this is actually worth a replay because Hisada actually lost the car himself before he got hit by Gaudin. So unfortunately for Togo Hisada, a self-inflicted wound this time around.
I have a feeling we'll have a lot of interruptions like this today's race. Some major developments happening constantly out there. So there he is, pretty much not even battling with Mukanos at this point, maybe trying to get up a little bit closer, but he was offline on the way in. That maybe did it.
Yeah, and then unfortunately, nothing that the GTO could do but try and hit the brakes and avoid him. But with the drum brakes and 4-wheel drive that these GTOs have, they don't slow down instantaneously that quickly. And this also just happened here. Unfortunate spin for the 33 coming off of the corner. That was unfortunately some pretty decent contact with the front nose of that machine. So getting back going is Cam Porter.
Yeah, he's down to 15th now because of that. Peter Brusniski was able to go by in the number 40. Oh, and yeah, there you see, I think that was a wise move out of Hisada, just to go into the runoff instead of trying to navigate the chicane and cause some headaches for those around him. Now he's just
have to wait for a while, unfortunately.
Yeah. I mean, he could get out there. It's just he needs to be able to cut down to the bottom. In the meantime, no, he's going to take a tow. Yeah, he's had enough of this. He's probably not going to get back out there unless he has some lengthy delays. 22 minutes left on the clock now. Your new order for the podium: Mucano, Sanchez, and Mudrack now in the GTPs. GTOs are Leskala, Olmo, and Haycox.
Another one around. Lars Vaitsic again, unfortunately. Through turn one, he's going to have a hard time getting this turned around. Everyone's pretty spread out at this point. He's going to do it right in front of our leader, Yuko Leskala, who's going to be able to sneak by.
It's really this game of survival. I know it sounded like we were hyping it up coming into this thing, but my goodness, has it been wild out here. Meanwhile, this is Robert Plumley, who is being chased by Andreas Schuster, and currently up 3 positions from where he began. Plumley actually not far off from the podium. That's Haycox up ahead that you can see in the green car in the 14, only about a second up the road.
Absolutely. They got Stephen Workup, who's coming up behind in another Brabham liveried machine. Workup going through on the inside of Schuster. Gonna have to find a way past Plumley. This is the hardest place to pass a GTO on the track because of how quickly and how violently the lanes change from inside to outside. Oh, and Plumley gets a little bit too hot into the corner, ends up hitting the outside wall. Hopefully it doesn't affect him too much. Another wreck going on screen.
This looks like Delgado. Yeah, Delgado. Now, how did he get facing that way at that spot in the chicane?
Well, he was a latecomer into another incident. It was Giovanni Salvador who ended up going over. Yeah, there you see it.
No, he tried to get it turned around and he went straight over the turtle. It's so tall, it put the car 4 wheels in the air, even at only about 10 miles an hour.
Well, someone out there is going to survive this, and here's the incident that happened with Salvado, unfortunately, and there you see Delgado pulling up and trying to figure out how to recover from this, both of them facing the wrong direction in the chicane.
and waiting for the other two. It's a comedy of errors.
Oh, and Laust Olsen, while we're in this replay, has gone around himself. This is through, I believe, this was a bad incident, unfortunately.
Let's see. Yeah, this is a solo incident as well.
This was this is on the exit of turn 3. Major front end damage for him.
Looks like he's got it going, so I'm not sure that it's hurting him too badly. I think he may have hit it square enough that he didn't damage the suspension.
I don't think he damaged the suspension, but the front end of that machine is severely damaged. He'll have 10 to 20 miles per hour down on straight line speed, and I wish I was exaggerating. Oh, he got caught up from a slow GTO, just tried to flick the wheel right, and the downforce did not hold him down.
He hit about 152 onto the backstretch there. I was watching as we reviewed the replay. We've also got a battle, it looks like, between Jungbluth and Trangerade starting to get close here, and you can see once again the GTO class is playing a big part of that. And Trangerade outside of turn 5, I was going to say I would not recommend.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's just very tense battling out there. I can report that Nick McConnell's had a close shave, actually a little bit of contact with a lapped car of Brendan Lim, unfortunately. So Nick trying to get himself going again, and he's getting just absolutely just held up in all of the lap traffic here. This track is just insane when it comes to these two classes racing on it at the same time.
It looks so unassuming from the surface too. It just doesn't seem like the sort of track that should produce this sort of chaos, but it always does. Also, for fans of Lars Stolsen, he did have to come into the pits. He was about 20 plus miles an hour down on top speed.
And look who has a lot of damage, Joe. Xavier Sanchez with major right rear damage on that machine. He's having a hard time holding onto the car. Joseph Mudrack's putting pressure on him for P2.
This was on lap 18, it appears, that this happened. I'm not sure if we'll be able to find it or not, but yeah, he's trying to get right back by past Mudrack, but it doesn't seem like he's quite got the pace in the infield, and if he's got that much damage, surely he doesn't on the straights. Well, turns.
Yeah, well, there aren't that many straights on this track, just a short straight between himself and this chicane here. But no, he's very much down on straight line speed. Mudrack starting to run away. Mudrack now 7.5 seconds behind Mechanos. Mechanos really needs to think in survival mode at this point in his race, because he really does not have many challengers behind him that are clean. That being said, in fourth position, Fabian Jungbluth and Ove Trengard realistically are battling for third, because they're going to catch Xavier Sanchez at some point in this race if they can keep their noses clean. So both of them trying to duke it out for this fourth position, which will become third.
Okay, I'm crossing fingers and knocking on all kinds of wood. It has been 4 fourth places this season for Mudrack, and he's on the podium in second right now. Can he hold on for 16 more minutes and bring this one home?
I'm not even going to talk about the man in the lead and his unfortunate luck. I'm also knocking on wood, but just a lot of drivers who could use a little bit of a morale boost this season who are in good positions at the moment. All they have to do, though, is survive to the end of this race. 16 minutes to go.
Tell you what, remember we're watching Robert Plumley before? He might also have a podium on the cards. He's reached the back of Ian Haycox now. So this is for the last step to spray the champagne. And we've often seen Ian generally not one to fight too terribly hard. He likes to just try and finish the races.
I mean, you say that, but you remember 2 races ago where he held off Yuko Leskala single-handedly for
Yes.
most of the race. So
True.
I think Ian's demeanor has changed since that race, where he really got it into his brain that he could defend well. And now he's got Robert Plumley and Andreas Schuster. All he has to do is keep Plumley behind, and Schuster will do all of the battling on Plumley to keep those two tangled up with each other.
Well, Schuster's got to get a little bit closer than this if he wants to try and become a factor. He is there, but none of them able to attack at this distance apart down into the back stretch chicane. And as they work their way out of there, great exit from Ian Haycox, really gets the power down.
Good exit from Haycox, but Schuster has a 2-car draft at this point. That's going to come up to the worst point to try and pass on the track, as this final chicane just been disaster after disaster going on. When we've seen last lap battles go into that part of the race, the best place to pass is actually into turn 1, but Plumley looks like he misshifts. Schuster's going to take the opportunity, dive it up the inside.
A lot harder than you'd think most times to get that pass into turn 1, but he's going to try and make it stick as they fly out of into turn 3. It looks like it's switched to the outside for Andreas. It's a lot of banking on the double apex right-hander, but not enough for him. He keeps the momentum up, and I think Plumley should have the job done. No, coming back at him around the outside of turn 5. Schuster is making life difficult, and you mentioned it earlier. This is exactly what Ian Haycox has wanted. Look at the distance now.
Absolutely. Haycox was hoping that Schuster and Plumley would get tied up with each other, and now they have. That separates all of them out. This puts Haycox at 1.3 seconds gap between himself and Plumley in that fourth position. Ian Haycox holding on to third.
This is a lesson in traffic management, if there ever was one. And contact. That was Brusniski and Cam Porter coming together in those GTPs.
Absolutely, and more GTP battles sneaking into all of this chaos. That's Nick Mechanos, our leader, who is just now about to go by Plumley. He's going to try and go by into the braking into the first chicane, able to do so. That is, I believe that is Jason Clapper who's following Nick Mechanos through.
Yeah, we're down to 11 cars in the GTPs that are left on the lead lap, so they're not only spreading apart, but falling like flies right now.
Side by side for 5th position, Stephen Warkup gets the pick on Ove Trengard for the 5th spot in the GTPs. Moves Stephen Warkup up to 5th, soon to be 4th, because he's closing in on the slow Xavier Sanchez.
Top 5 for the Brabham Esports team would certainly make them happy. Can he make it a 4th as Sanchez in front of him is still wounded?
And a gigantic wreck for 13th position in the GTPs. This is Tono DeCal, Lars Weitzig, and Christian Arribas, who all got together with a slower GTO as they were trying to pass him through turn 7.
And Fabian Jungbluth gets 3rd because of this. Or no, excuse me, he is in 3rd. He has been in 3rd. Wow. Jungbluth been very quiet and sneaky today to get himself a potential podium, but War Cup is coming. He did go by Sanchez. And then down on the backstretch, we have the limping number 42 as well of DeCal.
Absolutely. So DeCal limping, War Cup, Trangarade, and Sanchez just now coming by through that section as DeCal trying to get going. That's Emerson Gaudin on the bottom of the track as well. So it's just, it really, I mean, we've said it so many times, Joe, but it just is a game of survival out there for all these drivers.
Just got to hold it together, try and stay safe as best you can to call into the pits because of that. I've heard word that that David Brabham at times watches the broadcasts of the races his drivers team up on. So if you're out there...
Oh, my track rate goes around!
Oh!
This was all of his own doing from the 4th position. Unfortunately, he's now trying to get going again. None of these cars are 4th position, but he just spun it out coming through turn 3.
I went back and looked. He clipped the grass, just pushing the limits of this circuit, and he was going at full tilt, so that thing absolutely chucked into the corner and into the barriers. And that behind him is... not 4th position though. I think that is Moscara. Yeah, that's Moscara and a different car catching up to him. McLaren, it looks like.
It looks like more brake dust being kicked up into the chicane. More chaos as drivers brake. Drivers trying to sneak their way through. Mascara trying to get his way through that chaos. Everyone's just trying to figure out their place on the track. And with the amount of cars that are lapped in the GTPs, and we've got another spinner. That is Kurt Clapper, who's gone around in the on the back straightaway chicane. But with all the cars that are lapped in the GTPs, no one can really figure out who's got, ownership of the racing line right now.
It's looking like it is a nightmare anytime you come into multi-class traffic in that chicane. I think I would give a wide berth if I was in any car out there coming up to that one. But Yuko Leskola, by the way, is not out of the woods. He's got only a second ahead of Del Olmo.
Del Olmo, he's been pushing really hard, Joe.
I'd say he is. But is Leskola trying to play it safe out here? Is he been kind of reading the writing on the wall and just trying to back it off a bit just to get to the finish?
I mean, sure, you could do that, but if you let another driver get within a second of you like he has, this allows the draft to come into play on that back straightaway, and Leskola looks like he actually is quite tight in that machine. The infamous Audi understeer starting to come into effect for Leskola. Del Olmo's car looks like it's a lot easier to drive.
Well, that makes me wonder, because I'm not sure what the effects of running on the banking are, because usually if he had a long straight to try and cool the tires down, would the banking continue to just overheat them all race long?
Oh, and he gets pushed offline by Nick Bacanos, our leader in the GTPs, who also missed shifts. This could bring Del Olmo into the effect now, as Leskola's trying to find his way down to the bottom. He can't do so. Del Olmo with a good run. Is he going to try and pass on the back straightaway chicane?
He's got 10 minutes to try and make the attack. Will the traffic give him another opportunity somewhere soon? Oh, way better off the chicane, though, for Yuko Leskola, heading now into NASCAR 3. And what was down to 0.2 of a second is back up to 5.
7:46 p.m. virtual standard time for these drivers. 85 degrees track temperature in Fahrenheit, 29 Celsius. So it's only gone down by 1 degree Celsius over the course of this race. Nick Bacanos looks slow at the front of the GTP field. He's being passed by Jason Clapper and Seamus Power, both of them on separate laps from Nick Bacanos and separate laps from each other. But he actually seems to be holding up those two drivers as well. So keeping my eyes on the timing screen for Nick Bacanos to see whether he loses time to Joseph from Mudrack in second.
Yeah, I went back and looked, and he checked up big time for lapping or cars that he's trying to lap in the GTO class. So I think with the huge gap that he's pulled and the fact that I think he has a pace advantage over Mudrack.
Javier Del Olmo on the inside of Yuko Leskola. Yuko Leskola got held up by Giovanni Salvador, and now they've got Peter Brzezinski underneath him, and that's Joseph Mudrack in second position, who's getting boxed in by those two. He could go to the apron if he wanted to, but he's going to wait a little bit and let them go by. Del Olmo into the lead of the GTOs.
And Mudrack probably doesn't want to hang around too much, remember, because he could be catching up to Mukanos, who seems to be taking his sweet time trying to deal with traffic. But right now, Del Olmo with the lead over Leskola. He'll have to defend for the remainder of the race because look, already down to the final chicane, Leskola's on the attack.
This is gutsy, this is chancy for both of them, but look at this, Leskola with a good exit. He can't get the power down quite as easily. That's Robert Lowry who goes by. Fabian Doodle within third position of the GTPs, stuck in behind our two leaders of the GTOs as they have to avoid a wrecking Lowry who holds up all of them.
Thankfully off to the side and out of the way, and they all managed to get past the danger. So Jungluth is gone, and Del Olmo and Leskola can battle temporarily, or no, Lowry's coming right back through.
Alrighty, and now we're watching Nick Mukanos, who's still holding up these three cars behind him. He is losing time to Mudrack. It's down by a second this lap, Joe.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure this is measured, but he can't dilly-dally too long because it seems like Mudrack is trying to hustle that car as much as he can. There you can see Mudrack on the screen now. And I'm trying to recall if we've ever seen that 7-car take a win in this series.
We might have, but it was a long time ago.
Yeah.
Cam Porter holding him up into the final chicane of the race. Mudrack trying to close the gap to Nick Mukanos. He's cut another second off of it just this lap, Joe.
Gonna have to keep our eyes peeled because both lead battles are getting very interesting, although the GTO is a little bit closer. And this is where the traffic could make or break the race for Mudrack. He's going to get held up through 3 and 4.
Yeah, now the gap from 4.8 out to 6.8 out to 7.2 seconds for Mudrack. So he gets held up through the traffic as Nick Mukanos starts to deal some clean air. Back in the lead of the GTOs, though, Yuko Leskola can't seem to get the better of Javier Del Olmo. That car really is pushing from the front end at this point, Joe.
Yeah, again, I question what the effects of an oval does on the tires. They weren't
Nick
really
Mukanos just had a
built for that.
spin. Nick Mukanos goes off in the max stretch chicane. Joseph Mudrack under a second and a half now.
Wow. It seems like even in the most timid of situations, it's hard to avoid errors. This time, I think an unforced one, really, because Marco Lay was to his inside, and he just spun the car on the way into the chicane. Not sure if he just downshifted too quick or what, because that was very, very unusual.
But now Mudrack within 1.2 seconds, so these two are going to come together if they run into any more traffic. Marco Lay is going to be the next one up the road for both of them, as that's Laust Olsen very slow and looking like he's going to take a tow. And that's another, who is that who's come up alongside him? So many things going on at once around here.
Both of them waiting to try and get back on. Not sure if they're related because that Audi came in a little late. This is your overall leader, Nick Mukanos, still about a second and a half ahead of Joseph Mudrack. He's got to survive 3 more laps, it looks like.
3 to 4 more laps depending on when they cross the line. It'll be interesting to see. I think it'll be closer to 3 as you said, so very interesting to see there as he gets held up just a little bit. We've had another wreck, the number 2 machine. I believe this is Mick Claridge again who's gone around. Yes, it is.
Mick's not been having a good day. He had a big wreck earlier on, doing enough damage that he had to get it repaired side by side there into the chicane between Gaudin and Simmons as our leader went through.
Oh, and that's Gaudin trying to hold off Simmons around the outside of second place in GTP's Joseph Mudrack. That's going to allow Simmons to try and go up the inside of turn 2. Can't quite do it. But my goodness, Mudrack lost a lot of time, about a second and a half from Mukanos going through that traffic.
Oh,
our leaders of the GTOs now nose to tail as they go into the final chicane. Javier Del Olmo gets cut off from taking the apex by Sanchez. Yuko Leskola with a good exit, a little bit of contact between the two of them. Leskola up the inside through 1.
Down into Heartburn Turn. He's got the lead back. Del Olmo now has even less time to try and get right past him. As we've seen, that's sometimes easier said than done. But how about Mudrack taking a page out of Earnhart's book?
McConnell's is around again! Nick McConnell has had major contact. He's got damage now, and Mudrack is through to the lead.
Holy cow. Mudrack up from 9th position on the grid. 3 minutes left to go. And Mukanos is irate over the radio. His unfortunate luck rears its ugly head yet again.
So Mudrack now has 5 seconds to Fabian Nunwood behind him. Del Olmo is about half a second behind Yuka with major traffic for them to deal with. Here's what happened to Mukanos. Oh no.
Again.
And Yuka has to cut the track at the backstretch chicane, giving Javier Del Olmo the lead. He got held up by Mika Tupola and Michael Spode, who were side by side with him.
So twice in this race, the prototype leader has been taken out by miscommunication with traffic, and now we've seen the lead go away in the GTOs due to cutting the course out, breaking himself, and it's a pretty big gap right now up to Del Olmo. I don't know if he can make that up in that time unless we see Javier have his own little issue.
I mean, at this point, I'm expecting anything to happen. I think Javier Del Olmo's going to get wrecked out next because that seems to be the trend.
This has been one of the most topsy-turvy seasons we have ever seen. And let's remember, Xavier Sanchez still sitting down in 6th, so he's not going to get as many points as he would like in that battle for the GTP Championship. The GTO Championship might swing back to Del Olmo, taking the lead back on that one. And let's see, where is Mudrack for the white? He's going to get the white flag next time by, it looks like.
Absolutely. So Mudrack on the penultimate lap for himself right now with 4 seconds back to Fabian Nunwood. Steven Warkup, the last one on the podium right now with 4 seconds back of Nunwood himself. Diego Mastretta actually just took 4th position away from Ove Trangarade. So those two are actually duking it out for 4th spot. Here we see the nice battle for the last spot on the podium between Ian Haycox and Plumley. Plumley with a good opportunity to try and take the last podium spot away from Ian Haycox if he has any sort of opportunity to get close to it.
Amazingly, this is a full half a minute behind 1st and 2nd place right now. So those guys have been running a torrid pace up at the front, in spite of also having all kinds of problems in side-by-side battling. That just tells you how quick they've been. But this has been not necessarily the quickest span, but the most consistent out here today. Joseph Mudrack takes the white flag, 1 lap to go. We got to get on those stats to see whether or not this is going to be his first ever win in the prototypes here.
I mean, I told you, Joe, that if you just kept your nose clean and kept a clean car, you'd probably end up in the top 5. That sure looks like what's going to happen today. If Mudrack takes the lead, granted he has half a lap to go still, over half a lap to go, he has the cleanest car on the grid from what I can see.
Just been picking his way by bit. Del Olmo still has about 3 seconds over Leskala, so that one's not very close right now, and he's sitting in a good position, ducking down low underneath Dawes. I saw a little bobble from Dawes as though he wanted to go down to the racing line, but decided to hold high for Joseph Mudrack. As we've seen, this could still change, and Jungbluth could get, I think, what might be his 2nd ever win in the series if something happens to Joseph. 1 more chicane left to go for the number 7 car, and Joseph Mudrack is going to go 8 positions up for a victory here in round 10. Kept calm, and Joseph Mudrack is able to take the win at Charlotte.
1.2 seconds behind is Fabian Jungbluth, who takes 2nd position, up 8 positions himself. Steven Warkup from 6 seconds back takes 10 positions in the race to go 3rd.
So an opening salvo for the Brabham's Esports team is a podium. Del Olmo is coming onto the oval right now, still at about 2.5 seconds now to Leskala, but I'm not seeing a whole lot of traffic around him. I think he's got a clear shot.
Absolutely. Ian Haycox was able to take 3rd over Robert Plumley. They got lapped by our overall leader Mudrack, so their race is over. But Del Olmo still has a couple of corners to go, but Yuka major traffic ahead of him. Jason Clapper and Giovanni Salvador, who unfortunately can't get themselves sorted out. So Javier Del Olmo, free and clear. All he has to do is take these next 2 corners.
Del Olmo through the final chicane is going to take his third win of the season. Charlotte Motor Speedway puts him back into the points lead. Well,
oh my goodness.
That was quite a race. Let's take a break, Adam. We'll come back with the official results as well as driver interviews. It looks like still celebrations for second place Leskala there as he drifts. Stick around because we've got more to come.
Good morning, everyone. I'm going to ride around the world.
I'm Mick Claridge, and I'm going to ride around the world on my bike.
My son, he gave me advice at the start of this ride, and he looked at me and just said, "Dad, don't be a moron."
Let me do my animal signal to gain their respect.
How's it going, Sally?
Yeah, I'm alright, Mick. How's it going?
Worse than that bit in Lord of the Rings where they got into the top and the spiders in the tunnel. I'm just hoping there's a spider at the top of this one to kill me. Freezing.
And I failed. I moroned up the ride.
Welcome back to Charlotte Motor Speedway. Round 10 of the Camel GT series was wild, and Joseph Mudrack takes the win in that number 7 from 9th on the grid. Jungblut did the same thing, up 8 spots, going from 10th to 2nd, and Stephen Warcup from 13th to 3rd, going up 10 positions himself there. It was Diego Mastretta in P4, followed by Ove Trangerade in the 5th position. Jack Spickett didn't set a qualifying time, began from 25th, and wound up with a 6th place. He was ahead of Xavier Sanchez, who at one stage looked like he could maybe challenge for the win, but he had to settle for 7th after damage cost him speed. Michael Spohn was 8th, and Jason Clapper was the last driver on the lead lap to finish 9th. Cam Porter, who got involved in a couple incidents throughout, was P10. You've got Peter Brusniski in the 11th position. From there, Robert Lowry, P12, Lars Vetzig in the 13th position, and Seamus Power, P14. Last one lap down was Brendan Lem in 15th. Kurt Clapper was 16th. Nick Mukanos, unfortunately, 3 laps shy from the finish and wrecked out of the lead, wound up in 17th. Lars Stolzen, 18th. Lars Monkenut, 19th, and the rest you see there on the finishing order were DNFs or multiple laps down due to big accidents in the GTP field.
Yeah, 10 drivers in the GTP field with major damage and either did not finish or finished laps down. That is a lot of drivers and a lot of attrition. Similar attrition in the GTOs, but one driver who did not face that attrition was Javier Del Olmo, finishing with the win over Yuko Leskala. What an impressive drive it was from both of them duking it out in the traffic, in the chaos, to come home 1-2, with Ian Haycox finishing just ahead of Robert Plumley, able to hold Plumley off. Andreas Schuster finished a lap down from these guys in the 5th position, with Mark Ole finishing in 6th. Ben Lafter in 7th today, with Carlos Fonseca in 8th, and Mika Tupola in the 9th position. Stefan Leslie in the 10th spot. In fact, the top 10 really, quite frankly, had some pretty quiet races for the GTOs. Hideki Koivisto, involved in a couple of incidents, came home in 11th today, with Jamie Hamill-Smith in 12th, and Javier Delgado, after being in a good position early on, got into a wreck himself, came home in the 13th position. Dustin Dawes and Michael Haynes both had incidents and had to take tows early on in the race. They both did finish the race, and then from then on it's your DNFs: Nico Simmons, Yuri Geisen, Giovanni Salvador, Emerson Gaudin, and Antonio Alvarez.
That takes us to our winner, Joseph Mudrack, and I guess we'll get to try and settle it to see whether or not he has had any wins in this series. Joseph, congratulations. I'm sure this is just as much of a shock to you. Is this your first win in the series?
Yeah, it is. I got so lucky. Which is like, I knew that that's what it was going to take, because I really don't feel like I had ultimate pace. I was okay. I was competent, but oh my God, it was a minefield out there. It was I mean, I saw Nick get taken out in front of me. It's just one of those races where I don't think I made a pass on track the entire race. The closest I got was Ator, and he was damaged. Yeah, I mean, I'll take it. Yeah, that's the first one. But that was a mess. Glad everyone had fun.
An even more unbelievable stat is you've been in fourth place 4 times, and your first time on the podium is the top step. So what a way to make a splash on that one. You, to be honest, you've been seemingly pretty consistent all season, and like I said, 4 fourth places shows that you've got the skill there. So can you start spraying more champagne the rest of the rounds that we've got remaining?
Yeah, if they happen like this, then sure. That's the thing with when you have cars like these, like mixed class cars that are this difficult to drive. You've got 50 of them in basically like a bull ring. I do feel like I'm not somebody who's comfortable driving it like 99%, and I think this race kind of rewards that. I was managing the pace so bad on the last couple laps. I was just looking at the gap to second and just playing it so cautious because we'd seen everybody who led the race up to that point had hit traffic, literally. Yeah, that was Fabian just said congrats in the Discord. That was tense. I was shaking a little bit. I'm not gonna lie. That was intense. Congratulations to everybody who finished.
Indeed, and you say hit traffic. In some cases, quite literally, that happened. And a couple of the leaders, that was the case. So you came into this round 4th in the points. Laus Stolson had a bad day, so you're probably going to catch up to him. So did Sintez Galindo. Don't think you'll catch him. Yeah, and that's not enough points to catch him, but you'll narrow the gap significantly. Second in the points in the championship does look feasible. What are your thoughts on that as you head off to the last 3?
Well, I don't know if I'm even going to be able to do the rest of the championship. I'm going to do as many races as I can, but I'm not expecting a full slate. I'm here because it's fun. Thanks to Laus for poor Laus for his setup, because his is the one that he posted that kept me on the track. But yeah, it's one. I was kind of thinking about that more than I should have been during the race, where it's like, yeah, there's a championship. Honestly, that was the first thought that came to my mind when Nator spun out. I was like, okay, well, that'll be good for maybe a crack at a spot. But yeah, once we got down to like the last little bit, I was like, okay, maybe I can get Nick. Maybe I can, and then it just went super pear-shaped for him. But like I said, I'll take it.
Well, congratulations on the victory. Anybody you want to thank that helped put you here?
Laus, I'm sorry, but thank you. That's it. Yeah, thanks for broadcasting this and letting my brief moment of glory shine.
No problem. That was Joseph Mudrack, our winner in the GTPs. And I think we have 3rd place up next. It looks like Adam is caught up with Stephen Warkup.
Yeah, Stephen, we didn't end up talking about you much today, which, considering the people we talked about tended to wreck out, that's probably a good thing. How'd you come home in the 3rd position today?
Well, exactly that. I just survived. Keep it steady, keep it on the island, and stay out of trouble. I knew it was going to be a wild ride with this much traffic, and it was just about surviving. So anticipating those wrecks ahead and keeping the car clean. Another one was keeping off the walls. Such a narrow track, it's easy to swipe a fender and scrub your top speed. I'm sure a few of the guys I managed to pick off succumbed to that. So yeah, it's just about staying in the zone and staying focused. And we picked up this Brabham support, and I think Joe mentioned it. We've been working with David Brabham himself on a lot of the mental side of the game, and that's really paying off in our driving as a team. And that's the kind of mentality that you want to stay in for a race like this, especially.
Yeah, it's got to be a boost of mental support and mental, like, just a nice boost of morale to be driving for the Brabham family. I mean, talk to me about how that's adjusted your preparation for this round and the other races that you're doing going forward.
Well, yeah, it's given us, that motivation and then the mentality to focus on our driving from the mental side, the positivity, the focus, and having the reference of somebody that's basically done everything you can do in the world of sports car and open wheel racing. To have that reference to know when you're doing things right and doing things wrong, it's a really huge help. It's an honor and a privilege to be driving for them.
Well, definitely a good first outing coming home in third position. And we had Joe say that to tell David to get Jeff in the car for a broadcast. I think that would be fun. But all that being said, Stephen, is there anyone you want to thank for your third place finish today?
Well, I want to thank a lot of people, the guys at Sim3D, the guys at Brabham Group, obviously, Zancho, and Simply Race as well. A special shout out to Yanis because he wants it. And it's a great team, and I'm happy to be a part of it. And a shout out to you guys and everybody here at the Camel in the series because it's one of the best on the series.
Well, we look forward to seeing that gorgeous livery on track a lot more, Stephen, and we look forward to seeing you up here in podium positions and hopefully taking some wins as well shortly. Thanks for joining us. That was Stephen Workup, who finished in third position. We have Ben Laughter, who is going to come talk to us. Ben Laughter finished in seventh in the GTOs.
A little bit better than what he experienced in the Lotus 49s earlier today, but still, we saw so many drivers run into issues out there, and we can see some damage on your car on the replay. Ben, you care to enlighten us what happened? Because we had lots to go and cover, and it wasn't necessarily always your action.
Yeah, about 10 laps in, I spent a good deal of time just sitting still in the back chicane because there was a slow GTO. I think he missed a gear or had damage. I'm not sure. There was a slow GTO on the outside lane. The 27 came down and just destroyed me, stalled the car, took me a while to get back going. So finishing P7 after sitting there for a while, I'm not unhappy with the result. The race was problematic, but I'm not unhappy with the result.
Yeah, it's. I think everybody kind of knew coming in that it was going to be a wild one. So did you do anything special to try and prepare or approach this race?
No, it's kind of a shakedown race. I haven't done Camel in a while, and my wheel went out on me, and I got myself a direct drive finally. And over there, today I've been wanting to try to break everything in, do a couple of races, and dial in my settings and whatnot. So this is only my second race back in a while.
Well, not a bad job then, getting a top 10 out of that. How are you expecting Mossport to go? It's going to be another track that tends to see a lot of attrition. Is it just kind of grab the wheel and hold on there?
Mossport's a fantastic track for any series, especially multi-class. The only reason if it would go bad is if people don't use their windshields and their mirrors and their brains like today. If it goes bad at Mossport, a perfect track and amazing cars, then it's the drivers at fault, not the track.
Well, best of luck when you head up to Canada. And again, welcome back and congratulations.
Yeah, thanks, guys. Thanks always for putting on a good show.
That was Ben Laughter, who came home in seventh today. Cam Porter behind him. Well, not necessarily behind him, but in a different class. It was 10th, and it looks like Adam's going to chat with him.
Yeah, absolutely, Cam. Definitely an intense race all the way from lap one. Talk to me about dodging that end of lap incident that happened on the front stretch. That seemed to be kind of spell out what the race was going to be like for you after that.
Yeah. Gosh, I don't even remember. There were so many things happening that it's all kind of a blur. The only thing I really remember is getting side by side with Daniel Sitzman going into the second chicane, and I felt like I had established myself on the inside, and he lost control under braking and hit me, so I had damage after that. That was on lap 4. But yeah, like a couple of the other guys already said, it was a really zany race out there. I was just trying to focus on survival and avoid all the crashing and spinning and smoke and everything that was happening ahead of me.
So I guess we expected some craziness. What we didn't expect were so many lapped GTPs to contend with, because that added a third layer of complexity on top of the already complex multi-class racing going on. How did that affect, when you're passing GTOs who are passing fellow GTOs who are lapped down, and then passing GTPs who are lapped down as well? I mean, like, how do you sort that all out in your head?
It's really difficult to keep straight. I think about the only thing you can do is just ignore the fact that they're lapped or not, or ahead of you or whatever. Just try to race your line. The faster guys will get by you, and just try to hold your line. Try not to squeeze anyone out. At least that's what I do. Just tried not to embarrass myself today and take anyone else out. And I think I successfully did that. But I did have a couple of minor incidents. So, yeah, successful race despite the fact that it was quite hairy for everyone else, it seemed.
Well, next week we trade the concrete walls for grass as we head to Mossport, and you seem excited about that. So I feel like a lot of people love that track. But talk to me about why you're looking forward to it.
Yeah, I've done a lot of laps at Mossport. I raced a league before I started doing iRacing, and that was on the schedule every season. And it's just a favorite track of mine. I'm Canadian, so it's kind of like a home track for me. So yeah, really looking forward to Mossport.
Well, we hit 2 Canadian tracks this season in Camel, and looking forward to seeing you there next week. But is there anyone you want to thank for your 10th place finish day?
I want to thank Lars Elson for sharing his set. It worked really great for me today. And even though I was ridiculously off base, but I don't blame the set for that. So thanks to GSRC as well for putting on such a great broadcast.
Well, 2 votes of thanks from the people who got interviewed is probably the best thing that's happened to Lars Olson this race. But we look forward to seeing you next race, Cam, and thanks for talking to us.
Thanks, guys. See ya.
That was Cam Porter, 10th place in the GTPs. Back to you, Joe.
That's going to wrap us up. So we also want to give a big thank you to the Camel GT community as well for bringing us on for another season of coverage, as well as thank you to the team today, Adam, Zach, and Dougie. Make sure to check out our social media, website, and merchandise store. And don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel so you don't miss a moment here on GSRC. As was mentioned, the next race will be at Mossport, Canadian Tire Motorsport Park, Saturday, August 20th at 1 p.m. Eastern. Be sure to check out our other broadcasts that we have listed here. But until next time, race clean, race hard, and we'll see you on the track.